Today we are going to look into a subject which is not that much explored by the Indian competition car teams. However, I've explored properly that it can help in escalating the entire vehicle design and development process, and it can also help you save a lot of money if obviously if you have a simulation data in front of you, then you can implement things in while fabrication in a more efficient way, and hence you can save a lot of money. Now the subject that I'm talking about is a vehicle model. Whenever people discuss a vehicle model, then generally it is misunderstood by vehicle CAD model. However, it is not. Vehicle model is a more common term that is used to define a vehicle simulation model, okay, or a mathematical model for the vehicle. Now, as the name suggests, a mathematical model of a vehicle is a kind of a program which mathematically represents the behavior of your vehicle. Okay, so this was the definition of a vehicle model. Now, how we can actually work out a vehicle model for a vehicle? Now, for that you need a couple of parameters. The most important among those are the input parameters of the vehicle. Okay, so you must have a clear idea of the values that are actually governing the behavior of a vehicle, the values that you as a driver are inputting, and that those input values are fed into a set of equations, and those equations give you a certain set of values. So the second thing that comes to the mind when you are talking about a vehicle simulation model is the set of equations that govern your vehicle. Now, these equations can be solved in a number of ways. You can physically sit and solve it in a notebook, but however that's not a very efficient approach. Then you have software interfaces that can help you in solving these equations, and either you can use an Excel workbook for that matter, or you can use a MATLAB toolbox or a MATLAB interface. Now, in case of simulation models, MATLAB is more preferred because of certain advantages, or the comfort level that MATLAB shares in that MATLAB has in solving differential equations. Okay, and also when you're talking about a simulation model, then you're actually looking at the various results that you're getting from your vehicle model on a time scale or on a timeline. Now, if you look at the Simulink module of MATLAB, then Simulink provides you with an automatic timeline that is constantly running while your simulation is running, and all the data that you are actually generating from the simulation model is represented on that timeline. So suppose if I am driving my vehicle in a simulation model, if I'm driving my vehicle with a certain acceleration, and suppose with a constant acceleration, then by the time, how is the velocity of my vehicle changing, and how is the vertical loads on all the four wheels are changing, as the time is proceeding, as the time is progressing. That can be easily viewed and analyzed in a Simulink model. Okay, so maybe Excel has certain advantages as well, but I cannot comment on that because I've never used Excel for a simulation model. I've always used MATLAB, and I suppose I'll also recommend using MATLAB and Simulink for the same. Okay, so the second thing was all the equations. You must have the idea of all the equations that are governing your vehicle. Third is all the various results that you're getting from your vehicle simulation model. Okay, so once those results are there with you, how you will analyze them to understand your vehicle, because the results that you are getting are just mathematical values. Okay, so you must have a clear idea of how those mathematical values, the extent, the size of those values, how they are influencing your vehicle, or what effect they are physically having on your vehicle, or how can you feed in those values into more user-friendly interfaces to visualize the behavior of a vehicle in the better way. Okay, so let me write these things down. The first thing that you have to look into is your input parameters. Okay, the second thing, vehicle dynamics equations. Okay. The third thing are the output values. Fine. So among the input parameters, you may have the engine RPM. Okay. Now, what does the engine RPM do? It gives you the value of the torque that your engine is providing at any particular instant, and the RPM at which the engine is running at any particular instant. Then you have the steer angle. As a driver, you have full control over the steering, and so you can feed in the steer values. Then the braking forces. Okay. So you can work out a couple of input parameters like this. So braking, then if you also want to simulate a clutch, you can have a clutch engagement or disengagement also as an input parameter, and so on and so forth. Then you have a long list of vehicle dynamics equations. We are not here to discuss those equations. You can watch other videos related to suspensions or related to tire data if you want to really understand those vehicle dynamics equations. But over here, we are just looking into how we will extract information from these equations. Okay, so you will have a set of vehicle dynamics equations. Then you have output values. Okay, these output values generally are longitudinal force, okay, lateral force, okay. Then depending upon those longitudinal, you can find the longitudinal acceleration, lateral acceleration, and you can also feed in these values to to work out the most sophisticated vehicle analyzing tools like the MMM diagrams. Okay. Now we'll make separate videos to explain all these things, MMM diagrams, because they'll take time to explain. Then you have traction circles. Okay, so these are some of the output values that you can get that can help you in understanding your vehicle. Now, how we are going to make a kind of system where we can get some significant information about the vehicle, all these information about the vehicle, how we are going to do it. Now, you can do it on Simulink first of all. Okay, since this is not a Simulink tutorial, I'm not going to technically discuss the coding part of it, and believe me, that is very easy. If you know the algorithm behind it, the coding part becomes really very easy. Okay, so we will only focus upon how we are going to feed in the value and what will be the structure of the entire code. Okay, so let me read. So the most basic input parameters over here is the engine and the transmission, mostly the engine. Then transmission values are they are also changing when you're changing the gear, and you can make it more and more complicated as you proceed further and further, but let's keep it very simple right now. We'll make a common system. So when you'll be making things in Simulink, then you will be structuring them like this. You'll be having blocks as subsystems, and suppose engine and transmission is a subsystem for me. Engine and transmission. Okay, so this is a subsystem for me. Now what are the values that are going as inputs? Now suppose these are the inputs. Now what is the input that I'm giving to this one? Suppose I'll say RPM. I'm giving RPM as the input. Now this subsystem already has enough data to get meaningful information from the RPM. Okay, what is that data? The engine curve. Okay, so this engine curve actually correlates RPM with power and torque. Okay, so at what RPM, what power and what torque I am getting, that I can figure out. Now I can feed in this data into my subsystem. So if I'm getting the RPM from over here, what I'm getting over here is torque. Now I'll not use power because I won't be needing power right now. As you go on understanding the whole system properly, you can get an idea when do you actually need power. So the thing that I'm getting is torque. Now this torque is the torque that I'm getting at the differential end, at my wheels. Okay, so everything from the engine, the gearbox, and the differential, everything is being worked out over here in the system, and I'm getting the torque at my wheels. Okay, now I have 4 wheels, and 2 of them are driving wheels. So suppose I have, I'll make them over here. 1, 2, okay, and 3. So these 2 are my rear wheels, these 2 are my front wheels, these are my driving wheels, okay, and these 2 are the driven wheels. Driven, and plus you can control the steer from it. Now this torque is, I'll bring them from over here because I want to use this space. So this torque is going into the driving wheel as inputs. Okay, now is this the only input that my wheels are getting? No, wheels are also being, the tires, not exactly wheels, the tires are being governed by 3 factors. Now if you want to understand how these 3 factors are correlated and interacting with one another, please watch our video on tire data. I'll be sharing the link in the description, so watch our video on tire data, get a better understanding for this. Now on each tire, the input that I'm getting, more inputs that I'm getting other than these are, one is the vertical load Fz, okay, the other is slip angle alpha, third is slip ratio. Okay, now there are separate systems, subsystems to calculate. Now these things are going into each tire, Fz, because though they are not driving wheels, but anyways these inputs are common for them as well. Obviously they also have a vertical load, they have some weight acting on them, they also have a slip ratio and a slip angle. Okay, so on all the 4 tires we are getting 3 input parameters. Okay, the vertical load, the slip angle, and the slip ratio. Now these 3 will be different for different tires. Why that will be so? I'll give you a little bit of idea of that. It's because the load on all the tires will be different because there's constant load transfer. There's not a single point of time while you're moving that your vehicle has a constant load. Of course, ideally you can say that yes, when you're accelerating and you're not cornering, the load on the 2 rear tires are the same. But let's be realistic and let's take a general example that all 4 tires have different vertical loads. Same is the case with the slip angle and the slip ratio. Okay, now these values Fz, alpha, slip ratio, same thing goes here. Now alpha and slip ratio will again be calculated by a different subsystem that will be there in your vehicle simulation model. Okay, vertical load will again be calculated by a different subsystem. Okay, now this subsystem has longitudinal load transfer, and lateral load transfer. Okay, so the output that we are getting from these are the vertical loads for all. So this the front left, vertical load front right, vertical load for rear right, and vertical load for rear left. Okay, so all the vertical loads that we are getting from this subsystem of ours. Now again we are coming back onto the tires. The output that we are getting from the tires are Fy and Fx. Now what is Fy and Fx? The longitudinal force that the tire is generating, the lateral force that the tire is generating. So from all the 4 tires, these are the values, that the outputs that we are getting, the load, lateral and the longitudinal forces. Now what is happening inside these subsystems? Please refer to the video of the tire data. Okay. So now if I add all the longitudinal forces, okay, all 4 of them, if I add, I'll get the longitudinal force that is being acted upon onto the vehicle. Same is the case with lateral force. If I add all the lateral forces, okay, sorry, Fx and Fy. Now if I convert these Fx and Fy in terms of acceleration, okay, then I have the lateral and longitudinal acceleration of my vehicle. This is the longitudinal acceleration, this is the lateral acceleration. How are they affecting the vehicle? They will be again going into the lateral longitudinal load transfer subsystem. It is because of these forces that I am having a load transfer. So these values will be going into this, and again I will be getting new set of values for the vertical load. So you can see it's pretty much like a loop, okay, and that is the reason why it is better to use Simulink in solving this, because Simulink is good in handling loops, and even if you face some problems while doing it, there are a number of functions that you can use to eliminate the looping problem. Okay, so this helps us understand the exact way in which our vehicle is behaving. Okay, now a very common understanding is that people generally calculate the top speed of a vehicle by multiplying the engine RPM with the ratios that you are encountering, and then finding out the RPM of the wheel, and then converting that RPM, the angular velocity, into linear velocity and getting the maximum velocity of the wheel of the vehicle. Okay, so but that is at the steady state. But most of the time we are encountering transient state in our vehicle, and for the transient state it is very important to understand this dynamics that the vehicle is going through. Okay, and if you want to understand how this is affecting the behavior of the vehicle, you have to view the results on these lines, on these circuit lines that you are seeing over here. So suppose if I want to see how the lateral acceleration of my vehicle is varying, then I can I can attach an output interface over here, and I can see the graph that with time how my lateral force is changing and how it is varying. Okay, and then suppose I have to see the effect of some kind of a change in my vehicle geometry in my vehicle. If I change the transmission, if I change the gear ratios in the transmission, my torque will be changing, and so all these parameters, all these results will be changing, and I can see the change, directly see the change instantly over here. Okay, so there are a lot of ways in which you can make it more and more user friendly. You can, like, suppose if I'm taking RPM as the input. Now RPM is not a very convenient way of taking the input of the engine. The more convenient way is if I say ask for a throttle position. Okay, so instead of getting this, I get the throttle position. Okay, throttle position, and then I calculate the RPM over here. With the help of the throttle position, I can I can relate the RPM. I know my engine very well, and this RPM then I can feed into the engine. Now this is a more user friendly term. Okay, because user is not directly governing the RPM of the engine. He is governing the throttle position. Better, you want to go one step more, you want to go one step ahead, pedal position. Now user is also not governing the throttle position. He is governing the pedal position. So I'll input the pedal position over here. Okay, fine. So this thing can also be extended to steering. Suppose I have not mentioned anywhere over here the steering angles that we'll be inputting, but all these slip angles that we'll be calculating, steering angle also plays a very important role over here, and so does the longitudinal and lateral accelerations. You have to design a subsystem for that. Now I can take steering input as directly as the input the steering angle of the tires at the tires, or suppose I take steering input as the steering and you can keep going one step further by making it more convenient for the user to enter the values. So if suppose I'm entering the steering input values, either I can directly enter the steering angle, or one step further I can enter the steering wheel angle, which is more familiar with the user, or one step more further I can ask him to enter the steering torque, the torque that he's applying on the steering wheel. Okay, so you can make your model more and more sophisticated by taking it more and more closer to the user. Okay, same is the case with the results. Now either you can ask the user to look at the results like this as graphs, or you can feed in these values into a VRML builder, and you can model, you can physically put a vehicle, a kind of a virtual vehicle, where the user can see how actually the vehicle is behaving as you're changing these parameters. Okay, so once you have this vehicle simulation model ready, it's very easy to make minor changes and see the results of those in the vehicle. Okay, and this helps in understanding the complete vehicle and understanding how your vehicle will be behaving and what will be the ideal parameters, what will be the ideal parameters for the vehicle that you'll have to take care while you are fabricating the vehicle. Okay, so if you have any queries regarding that, please feel free to contact us and mail us at tenseeracecars@gmail.com. And if you want us to make any further videos on videos and anything that you're not able to understand or that you want some technical help in, then please contact us and we'll try our level best to help you. Thank you.